I always thought the worst thing a QR code could do was send you to a bad menu. I had no idea one scan could quietly hand my life to someone else. Before this story really begins, subscribe to the channel, because what happened to me didn't start with violence. It started with trust. It was late September, the kind of evening where the city feels like it's holding its breath. Warm air, damp sidewalks, buses exhaling at stops like exhausted animals. I was 27, freshly promoted, still riding that fragile confidence where every small win feels like proof you're untouchable. I left the office after dark, laptop bag cutting into my shoulder, phone battery at 12%. Enough to get home, not enough to waste. My train was delayed. Of course it was. A loose crowd gathered under the harsh fluorescent lights, everyone staring up at the platform display like anger alone could bend time. That's when I noticed the sign. Service disruption. Claim a fair credit. Scan to receive your refund. It looked official in the modern way. Official things look, clean font, polite language, calm blue logo. I recognized just enough to stop questioning it. The QR code was laminated, neatly taped at the corners, like it belonged there. A guy in a work vest scanned it without hesitation. A woman with a stroller scanned it next. I watched them and felt my brain relax into the crowd. You could almost hear the city whisper, "This is normal. This is how things work now." I stepped closer. The QR code even had a tiny embedded transit logo inside it, a signature. I scanned it. My phone opened a page that looked exactly like every "your refund is ready" page I'd ever seen. It asked for my email and the last 4 digits of my card. Annoying, but plausible. How else would they verify? My thumbs moved on autopilot. A spinning circle appeared, then a bright green check mark. Refund available. Verify device to receive credit instantly. Tap continue. I tapped. A system prompt slid onto my screen. One of those gray, emotionless boxes that always appear when you're already halfway into saying yes. This website is trying to open settings. Buttons. Cancel or open. I hesitated. Not long. Maybe 1 second. Around me, people were already moving. Phones pocketed, refund claimed, returning to their lives. My battery dipped to 11%. I hit open like it was a toll booth. Settings opened to a page I'd never consciously visited before. Something about device profiles. There was an unfamiliar label. Transit credit verification. A blue link underneath, install. My throat tightened. That small warning sensation when your brain realizes it's lagging behind your hands. I didn't install it. I backed out, closed settings, closed the browser tab, deleted my history, because that's what people do when they want to believe mistakes can be erased. Then my train finally arrived. On the ride home, I convinced myself I'd been smart, that I'd stopped in time, that it was a harmless near miss I'd laugh about later. When I got to my apartment, I plugged my phone in and tossed my bag onto the couch harder than necessary. My roommate Jay was out. The place was quiet in a comforting way. Fridge humming, distant siren, pipes settling. I opened my laptop and tried to forget the whole thing. At 9:42 p.m., my email pinged. Subject, credit confirmation. I smiled. A stupid, relieved smile. See? It was real. The email had no greeting, no signature, just a single line of text and a button. We couldn't complete your credit. Confirm within 30 minutes. The sender address was a mess of random letters. The link preview showed a domain I didn't recognize. Definitely not the transit authority. My phone buzzed at the same time. A text from an unknown number. You closed it too fast. I stared at the message, waiting for my brain to rearrange it into something less threatening. Another text arrived. Don't worry. We still got what we needed. I didn't reply. I did what scared people do when they're trying to feel useful. I turned fear into chores, changed my email password, then my bank password, then every password I could remember. Turned on two-factor authentication for apps I barely used. The whole time my phone sat on the table like a witness. At 10:07 p.m., my laptop camera light blinked on. Just once. Half a second. A wink. I slammed the screen shut so hard the hinge complained. My heart pounded like it had somewhere urgent to be. I opened it again, stared at the camera. Nothing. My hands were shaking anyway. My phone buzzed. A photo. It took my brain a moment to understand what I was seeing, because it didn't want to. It was me, sitting on my couch 10 minutes earlier. Face angled toward the laptop, mouth slightly open. The kind of unflattering in-between expression you only see when someone else is holding the camera. Except I lived on the 3rd floor, and my blinds were closed. Under the photo, a single line of text. Now you understand. Something came out of my mouth that wasn't a word. My stomach dropped like, subject, no police, no reports, do not power off. I didn't open it. I wanted to throw my phone out the window and pretend my life could reboot like a broken device. My phone buzzed again. We're going to ask you for something small. You can do small. You already did small at the station. I sat down because I realized my legs had been holding me up on a promise they didn't remember making. A new message appeared, with a countdown timer in the corner, like this was a game. Walk to the delivery lockers at 8th and Mercer. Use code 449193. Pick up the package. Bring it back to your building. Bring it back to my building. Where my name was on the mailbox. Where my unit number was on the lease. Where my neighbor said hello, I typed 3 words. Deleted them. Typed, "Who are you?" And sent it before I could stop myself. The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. People who notice patterns. People who use the city the way it uses you. Another message followed. If you don't go, we send the photo to your manager and your mother. We already drafted it. Want to see? A PDF appeared. Email draft. Subject line ready. My hands went cold. I looked at the timer. I could call the police. I could. But my brain served me the worst image possible. Me explaining QR codes and profiles to a bored officer while the countdown kept draining. And I hated myself for thinking it. But another thought followed. They'll think I brought this on myself. My phone buzzed again. A second photo, the front of my building, taken from across the street. Clean shot, my entrance centered, address number perfectly visible. I didn't dress like a hero. I dressed like someone going to buy milk. Hoodie, sneakers, hat. I left my phone face down on the table, then remembered the message, "Do not power off." I picked it up again. The tape over the camera felt like a bandage. Outside, the sidewalk smelled like wet concrete and late-night takeout. I walked fast, but not fast enough to look like I was running from something invisible. At the delivery lockers, the screen glowed like a vending machine that sold consequences. I typed the code. My hands shook. I mistyped it twice. A locker popped open. Inside was a padded envelope. Light. My phone buzzed instantly. Good. Now go home. Don't open it. Put it in the recycling room behind the blue bin. When I got back to my building, I paused at the entrance and looked over my shoulder. A dark sedan idled half a block away. It could have been anyone. That was the worst part. In the elevator, my reflection looked like someone trying to remember how confidence used to feel. In the recycling room, I placed the envelope behind the blue bin like it was alive. Step out. Close the door. Count to 10. I did. When I opened the door again, the envelope was gone. Relief hit me so hard I laughed. A thin, broken sound. Relief is just fear rearranging itself. My phone buzzed one last time. We're done. Don't try to be clever. You already showed us you can follow instructions. Then the chat thread vanished. Not deleted. Gone. I stood there staring at the empty space behind the bin, trying to understand how the world could look exactly the same after something like that. Because the scariest part wasn't the QR code. It was realizing how easily I'd been turned into a hallway between two doors. Dad, did you send a voice note to the family group? I heard the phone vibrate in his hand like a small animal trying to escape. He didn't answer right away. He only made that faint noise people make when they're pretending they didn't hear you. Yes, he said finally, and his voice sounded like it had been dragged through sand. About the electrician? I asked, forcing myself to stay calm. He shifted, the rustle of paper, the way people shuffle through a wallet like it's a map to their own identity. Dad, I said, and my voice cracked before I could stop it. What did you say? What do you mean, what did I say? He snapped, like the question was an insult. I held the phone up and played the voice note in the air between us, like it was evidence I could press into his hands. It was his voice, not a voice that belonged to someone else. Not a deep fake from a stranger. His. The kind of voice you recognize from childhood, from arguments, from bedtime apologies, from the way he says "come on now" when he wants you to hurry. But the words were wrong. The electrician can come Thursday after 4 o'clock. He needs access to the breaker. The same sentence he would say if he were organizing a job. The same tone, the same pauses. Except the sentence was not his. I closed my eyes and felt the room tilt. The air in the house seemed to hold its breath. Dad, I whispered, and my throat went dry. The message in the group. Isn't it silence? Then faintly, what? He didn't respond at first. Then he made a noise like he might throw up. I replayed it again and again, as if repetition could prove to him that the world had not changed, as if his own ears could be trusted. When it ended, he said very quietly, "That's not me." I didn't argue. I only said, "I know." But the silence in his voice was the most frightening thing. It wasn't a dramatic collapse. It wasn't a scream. It was smaller than that. Like a balloon slowly losing air. Like a person watching their own reflection fade. He breathed in, like he was trying to inhale the last 30 seconds back into his lungs. "Take it down," he said. "Tell them," he continued, voice breaking. "Tell them it's fake." "I can't delete it from their phones," I said, my stomach turning. "I can only delete it from the chat." He made a noise like he might cry. "I didn't say that," he repeated, as if saying it again would make it true. Then his phone beeped. He froze. "Wait," he said. "I just got a message." "From who?" I asked, though my skin had already gone cold. "It says, check WhatsApp." My phone vibrated at the same moment, a sharp, sudden ping. Unknown number. No profile photo, just a name. Audio team. A voice note appeared. 9 seconds. My heart started pounding like it remembered running. I didn't want to press play. I didn't want to hear my own voice again. Not like this. But I did. My own voice filled the room. Not a recording I had ever sent. Not a memory of something I'd said. It was me laughing first. A short, light laugh. Like a joke I had told myself only moments before. Then I said a sentence that made my stomach drop. A sentence that would ruin relationships. A sentence that would make people look at me differently forever. The note ended. Then the text appeared below it. Now you understand. Then we can do your mother too. We can do your boss. We can do a whole city if we want. My hands shook so hard the phone nearly slipped. I typed, "Who are you?" and deleted it. I typed, "Stop," and deleted it. I typed nothing, because I realized they didn't want conversation. They wanted control. Another message landed. Your father installed it. Transit Wi-Fi login. Voice permissions. Tiny box. Big yes. My mind flashed back. My dad always used free Wi-Fi at the bus terminal. Always. He told me it was smart because it saved data. "Dad," I said, my voice shaken, "did you connect to any public Wi-Fi recently?" His voice went small. "Yes," he admitted. "At the terminal?" I asked. He paused too long. "Yes." "Did it ask you to accept something?" Another pause. Then the truth came out in a whisper. "It asked for microphone." My mouth went dry. "Why would Wi-Fi need a microphone?" I asked, though the answer was already clawing at my ribs. He sounded like a child. "I thought it was how WhatsApp works," he said. The unknown chat pinged again. A photo. My dad in the terminal, sitting on a plastic bench, a bus schedule behind him. His face lit by his phone screen. A picture taken from across the room. Under it, a line of text. He clicks yes when a box appears. You do too. Everyone does. That's the product. Then the timer appeared. 0:45. Post an apology in the family group from your dad. Say he was drunk. Say he's sorry. Do it in voice. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. They weren't trying to steal money. They were trying to steal reality. Because reality is the only currency that works everywhere. My dad whispered, "Please, please don't make me." Something hot rose in my chest. Anger, shame, protectiveness, all tangled like wires. "Don't do it," I said. But the timer kept ticking. My family group chat buzzed like a hive. My aunt, my cousins, my mother, confusion, disgust, secondhand embarrassment like a shared disease. I typed into the group, "Someone is spoofing Dad's voice. Do not believe the audio. Do not open any links." Then I did what people do when they try to be brave. I called the police. The dispatcher sounded tired. "Is anyone in immediate danger?" she asked. I hesitated. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "But someone is impersonating my father's voice and threatening to impersonate more people." "A scam?" she asked. "It's not a scam," I insisted. "It's deep fake audio." A pause. "Ma'am, have you lost money?" "No." My throat burned. "I can take a report," she said, like offering a paper umbrella in a hurricane. "But for online issues, you can also contact—" My phone buzzed again. Wrong choice. A new voice note appeared in the family group. 0:24 seconds. My cousin typed, "Oh my God." My dad's voice again. Now crying, apologizing, saying he'd been drinking, saying he said stupid things, promising it wouldn't happen again. It was exactly what they demanded. Except my dad hadn't recorded it. He was on the phone with me, breathing like he might die. My aunt replied instantly, "Raul, are you okay?" My mother wrote, "This is not you. Stop." The group fractured. Some believed it. Some didn't. Some didn't know what to believe. Which was the point? The unknown number messaged me privately. "We can make a man confess to anything. We can make your mother forgive whatever happened. We can make your boss hear you quit." My vision sharpened with panic. "What do we do?" my dad whispered. I pictured him in my mind, a good man with a soft voice, sitting alone in an apartment full of routines. He didn't deserve to have his mouth turned into a weapon. "We cut the line," I said. "What line?" he asked. "Your phone," I said. He heard the truth. He took a breath. "Turn it off," I repeated. The call cut. For a moment, silence felt like relief, like air. Then my phone buzzed again. The timer kept running. A new message appeared. "We still have the audio. Turning off the phone doesn't turn off what we already copied. But it does tell us you want to fight. And then fine. Let's go viral." My Instagram DMs lit up like a Christmas tree. Accounts I didn't follow, people I didn't know, a clip being sent around. My dad's disgusting message as if it were gossip. Public, not private. My dad's voice floating into the world like a curse. My hands shook. My mouth tasted like metal. I did something I'd never done before. I posted a video of myself. Face bare, voice steady, only because I forced it to be. "I need everyone to hear me," I said. "This is a warning." I explained the situation. Synthetic voice social engineering, public Wi-Fi prompt permission abuse. I told people to stop sharing the audio, to treat voice notes like screenshots, to understand that the future had arrived and it sounded like someone you love. I pinned the video. Then I called a friend in IT security and begged for help with the kind of humility I usually reserve for hospitals. He arrived with a backpack like he was going camping in hell. He put my dad's phone in airplane mode, then into a Faraday bag. He logged into my dad's accounts from a clean laptop. He revoked WhatsApp sessions, changed passwords, turned on every security setting my dad had never heard of. While we worked, more messages rolled in. Calm, patient, enjoying itself. You can't unhear a voice. You can't put toothpaste back in the tube. You can't prove a negative to your aunt. My friend said, "They're not after money. They're testing compliance." He looked at me over the laptop screen. "This is a playbook," he said. "They're practicing on civilians." The thought hit me hard. We weren't special. We were convenient. A week later, a detective finally called. Coffee without sugar voice, like in every bureaucratic nightmare. "We've had multiple reports," she said. "Same pattern. Public Wi-Fi portal, microphone permissions, harvest voice samples." "Then coercion," I added. She sighed. "They're building a library," she said. "A library of voices." "A voice library?" I repeated, the words feeling heavy. "Enough to impersonate anyone who talks." I felt sick. The worst part wasn't the disgusting clip. The worst part was realizing how much of my father lived in his voice, his kindness, his jokes, his apologies, his authority, his ability to reassure my mother when she spiraled. They had stolen the part of him that made him him. After that, I hated every voice note beep, every hey activation, every tiny microphone icon. My dad stopped sending voice notes. He started texting like it was 1999, short, careful, a little stiff. One afternoon he called me from a landline, actually called. When I answered, he said softly, "Is this really you?" It broke something in me, because that was the theft in the end. Not money, not privacy, trust. And trust is the one thing you can't reset with a new password. Now, when people ask what happened, they expect a dramatic ending. Arrest, takedown, clean resolution. But what we got was smaller, uglier, more honest. A family group chat that will never feel fully safe again. A man who hesitates before he speaks. A daughter who now listens to every voice note like it might be a knife. And a new rule taped beside my screen, written in markers so bold it looked like a threat. If a box asks for your mic, it better have a name, because the future doesn't knock anymore. It pings, and it sounds like someone you love. I didn't think my phone badge could betray me. I thought it was just a convenience, a little tap instead of a key card, a tiny modern luxury. Walk up to the glass door. Hold your phone near the reader. Hear the soft beep. Feel like the world is smoother for you than it used to be. That was the lie. It started on a Thursday, late, busy, ordinary. My building had just switched access systems. HR called it frictionless entry. The email had cheerful screenshots and the same phrase twice. Simple, secure, seamless. I'm 30. I work in an office where people say things like frictionless with a straight face. I downloaded the building app because everyone did. I added the digital pass to my phone wallet because the lobby staff was tired of people forgetting plastic cards. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. It worked. I stopped thinking about it. Then my co-working place closed for unexpected maintenance, and I did what every city person does when their routine collapses. I improvised. There's a coffee shop a few blocks from my apartment that pretends to be cozy, but is actually a laptop farm. It has power outlets like bait and plants that have never known sunlight. At 9:12 a.m., I walked in, ordered something I didn't want, and sat down under the comfortingly loud hiss of the espresso machine. Their Wi-Fi popped up immediately. Cafe guest. I connected. A page opened automatically. Welcome. For security, please verify to access internet. There was a checkbox and a button. Then another box slid into view with the most boring sentence in the world. Install network certificate to continue. It looked official. It looked like the kind of thing my office IT team would absolutely do and absolutely never explain. There was a big button install. I hesitated just long enough to feel responsible. Then I clicked it because my coffee was getting cold and my boss was already in my inbox and my brain is like most brains trained to treat continuous oxygen. My phone flicked to settings for half a second. A confirmation. A tiny gray permission prompt with no personality. I tapped allow like I tap accept cookies. The internet started working. Nothing exploded. No alarms, no villains in hoodies, just a web page loading slightly faster. I forgot about it before I finished my first email. That night, I came home, kicked off my shoes, and let my phone die on the couch the way I always do, like a small animal collapsing after work. At 2:06 a.m., I woke up because my apartment felt wrong. Not there's someone here wrong. More like a fridge stopped humming wrong. A subtle absence, a shape missing from the background noise. I sat up and listened. Nothing, just the city breathing through my window. I told myself I'd imagined it and lay back down. My phone charging beside the bed lit up. A push notification from the building app. Door access granted. Service entrance. I stared at it until the words turned into something else. I hadn't touched my phone. I hadn't left my apartment. I hadn't even fully woken up. Another notification came in. Door access granted. Freight elevator. My mouth went dry. Then a third. Door access granted. Floor 12. My floor. My heart did that sudden sprint thing where it tries to outrun your ribs. I grabbed my phone and opened the app. It was spinning, lagging, acting like it was thinking hard about whether it owed me the truth. A message appeared in a new chat thread inside the app. Something I'd never noticed before. A support channel supposedly, except this one wasn't support. It was a single line of text. Don't call anyone. We're in your building. I sat so my skin prickled with its own heat. Another line. You're going to help us once. Then you get your life back. I typed who is this and deleted it. Typed this is illegal. Deleted it. Typed nothing because my hands were shaking and because they already knew what they were doing, turning my panic into silence. My phone buzzed again. Not a notification this time. A photo. It was my lobby. Not from the building's public Instagram. Not from a marketing page. A live grainy frame from a security camera. My building's security camera showing the front desk, the plants, the polished floor that always smells like lemon cleaner. And in the corner of the frame, like a detail my brain didn't want to zoom in on, the back of a person's head. They were wearing a hoodie, sure, but what made my stomach drop wasn't the hoodie. It was the badge, a visitor sticker, a little rectangle that said, guest. My building had let them in. Or my badge had. My phone buzzed again. You have a digital pass. Digital passes open doors. Doors make people useful. You're useful. I swallowed so hard it hurt. The message continued. At 8:15 a.m., go to the trash room on floor 11. There will be a black tote bag behind the blue bin. Take it to the service stairs and leave it on step 3. Do not use the elevator. Do not speak to staff. If you do, we send the footage to your employer and your building management. I stared at the instructions and hated how specific they were. Specificity is a kind of power. It makes the world feel pre-written. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to call 911. I wanted to wake up. But the threat wasn't, we'll hurt you. It was the threat that hits modern people where we actually live. We will ruin your version of the story. Because if you live in a building with an app and a job with compliance trainings and a landlord who has opinions, you already know how fast a rumor becomes a file. I didn't sleep again. I watched the minutes crawl toward morning with the kind of dread that makes your body feel like a room you can't leave. At 7:58 a.m., my phone buzzed. Good morning. I moved through my morning like an actor with a bad script. Brush teeth, pull on clothes, tie shoes. Don't look at your own face too long in the mirror because you'll see fear living there now. In the hallway, my neighbor smiled at me. I smiled back. It was the most unsettling part. How easily a human can perform fine. Floor 11 smelled like old cardboard, and somebody spilled takeout. The trash room door was propped open with a wedge like it always is because rules are mostly theater until they aren't. I went in. Behind the blue bin was a black tote bag, exactly like they'd said. Ordinary, like gym clothes, like groceries, like nothing. My hands hovered over it for a second. Then I picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. My phone buzzed immediately as if it had been watching the tote move. Good. Now go home. Don't open it. Put it in the recycling bin room on your floor behind the blue bin. I froze. You can't be serious, I whispered, because my apartment hallway suddenly felt like a stage. My phone buzzed again. We are serious and you are almost done being scared. I walked back with the tote tucked under my arm like a secret. When I reached my building, I paused at the entrance and did the thing people do before walking into their own lives. I looked over my shoulder. A dark sedan idled half a block away. It could have been anyone. It could have been nothing. That was the worst part. The city is full of plausible deniability. In the elevator, my reflection looked like a person trying to remember a language they used to speak. Confidence, normal, safety. On my floor, the recycling room smelled like paper and old pizza boxes. I placed the tote behind the blue bin, hands moving like I was setting down a live thing. I stepped back. My phone chimed. Step out. Close the door. Count to 10. I did it because my body was a puppet and fear held the strings. When I opened the door again, the tote was gone. A laugh escaped me. Thin, shaky, almost involuntary. Relief is just fear rearranging itself. My phone buzzed one last time. We are done. Don't try to be clever. You already showed us you can follow instructions. Then, like the end of a call, the chat thread disappeared. Not deleted, gone. I stood there with my hand on the recycling room door, staring at a spot where a thing had been, trying to understand how the world could be the same shape. After a moment like that, Jay came home at 1:13 a.m. with earbuds in and a bag of fries, humming like nothing was wrong. I met him in the kitchen with the kind of face that makes people pull their earbuds out. "What happened?" he asked. I tried to tell him and realized the story sounded insane as soon as it touched air. I showed him the photos. He went pale in a way that made me feel less alone and more doomed. "Kill the Wi-Fi," he said immediately. I started. "No," he interrupted, already yanking the router plug. "Not thought. Do." He had the kind of calm you get from growing up with an older sibling who gets in trouble a lot. He grabbed my laptop, shut it down by holding the power button until the screen went black, ignoring whatever the message had said about not powering off. "Now," he said, "we're going to assume the worst and act like adults anyway." He taped over every camera in the apartment. He made me put my phone in airplane mode. He pulled a dusty old device from a drawer, an older phone he used for travel, and slid it toward me like a tool. "Use that to call people," he said. "Not your compromised one." Compromised. The word landed heavy. We called my bank's fraud line. We called my company's IT after-hours number and got a recording that told us to submit a ticket. We called the city's transit helpline and got a closed message with cheerful hours. At 2:40 a.m., my bank texted, "Unusual login attempt blocked." At 3:10 a.m., my email provider sent your account settings were changed. At 3:17 a.m., a push notification popped up on my phone, even though it was in airplane mode like a ghost that didn't believe in walls. Device management profile installed. My skin prickled. Jay stared at the notification and swore under his breath. "That QR wasn't a refund," he said quietly. "It was a funnel." "A funnel to what?" I asked, my voice cracking. The viral story people like is the one where you fight back with a clever trick, where you outsmart the villain, where the credits roll and the danger is neatly contained in a police report. The story I got was smaller and worse. It was a city full of people who scan what they're told to scan, a system that turns your reflexes into a doorway, a threat that doesn't need to break your bones because it can break your inbox, and a laminated QR code that asks for nothing but a second of trust.